So it's been a brilliant week for Shamrock Rovers. Their 2-1 win in North Macedonia against Skopje, giving them a 5-2 victory on aggregate in the Europa League qualifier. It means that Rovers are guaranteed a place in the group stage of the Europa Conference League, but it could get even better than that. They play Ferencvaros over the next fortnight. The first leg this day next week in Hungary before they welcome them to Tala with a place in the group stage of the Europa League on the line. League race has been a key part of Shamrock Rovers' success this season and over the past few seasons, a rock in the heart of their defence, and I'm delighted that he's with us this evening. How are you keeping, Lee?
Nathan, how are we doing? Not too bad. Thanks for having me.
You got back home safe and sound?
We did, yeah, we did. We were due to land in Shannon, but that didn't happen. They tried twice to land, and we eventually got landed in Dublin, thank God. So it actually worked out a bit better for us. Yeah,
it's been a brilliant couple of weeks. In terms of the performance on Tuesday night, going there with the 3-1 lead, like the importance of that late Gary O'Neill goal to give you the 2-goal cushion. What was Stephen Bradley's message going out there when you had that lead to defend?
To be fair, he was still telling us to go and, win the game and put it to bed as early as we could, because the team when we went to Malta, we had a 3-0 lead against Hibernians, and we kind of sat in a bit more and were a bit more defensive, but this time around we were a bit more attacking and we went for it, and I thought we played very well and we were deserving of the win. It was a great night all round.
There's been a lot of talk, I think, post the game of learning lessons from this season's European campaign, from last season's European campaign. That bit about, maybe been a bit more aggressive, a bit more ambitious going out and trying to win the game rather than sitting back. Is that basically a culmination of all those games, even the first Ludogorets game of maybe at times having too much respect for teams?
Yeah, I think so, because I think we're at our best when we're in the opposition's faces, pressing high, winning the ball back up high and punishing teams that way. I think that's when we're at our best. We're just full of energy and win the ball, as I said, in their half and play from there. Now, in saying that, we didn't do too bad of a job over in Hibernians. I know there were different opposition and stuff. We're a bit more defensive, but I think we're a much better team, and we all know our jobs when we're doing it our way, and that's what the manager said, just do it our way, be ourselves, and I think we did that.
Yeah, be yourselves, but also it does seem slightly different than domestically, where I guess because Shamrock Rovers are the league leaders, the champions, you do get a huge amount of possession and you can have a lot of that in your own half and be patient. It feels that particularly since the Ludogorets home game that they've been a bit more direct.
Yeah, it's fair to say that, especially with the other night, especially with Rory and Aaron Green up front, and two big physical men. Two of them can play ball as well, but they're two good targets to hit. So we know if we spin balls down channels, the lads will run the channels all day for us, and they're very good at holding the ball up. So yeah, you could definitely say we're a tad bit more direct when the two lads are playing on top. But yeah.
What were you celebrating on Tuesday night? Is it the guarantee of the place in the Conference League, or is it the progression to the next round of the Europa League qualifiers?
A bit of both, I'd say. I think it was a bit more of relief, because we wanted to do it so many years now, and we've been building towards this. And last year, obviously, we just missed out. So to get it over the line, obviously now we're fully focused. Obviously, first on Derry, and then next week, then on Ferencvaros. I think we're going to give it a right rattle and see what happens. But I think the other night we were just celebrating, just getting it over the line, because last year, as I said, we were so close, and we always said this year we wanted to go that step further, and thankfully we did the other night.
Yeah, because listen, you've become the dominant force domestically, but when teams remember great League of Ireland teams, it really is on what they do in Europe, and it's probably what separates Dundalk. It's what separates the Shamrock Rovers team of a decade ago. They went on, they qualified for group stages. Is that something you've spoken about, that as much as you want that domestic success, as much as you want another league title, actually, if you're to leave a real legacy, it's probably going to come through European football?
Yeah, you do. You hear everyone talking about them teams from the past that have made the group stage. And as you said, they're always for that. So we wanted to be part of that history as well. And it's obviously something that drives you on. You want to be part of history, and thankfully we did it there night. As I said, last year we were so close and felt like we left it behind us. So this year really meant a lot to us, and yeah, thankfully we did it.
Yeah, it is something of a free shot because financially there's not an enormous difference between Europa League and Conference League. This probably is more actually for the players because there will be a difference in quality of opposition between Europa League and Conference League, and you could argue maybe Conference League games are more winnable, but the glamour ties, there's probably a few more of them in the Europa League.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, there might be easier games in the Conference League, but you'll get the more glamorous ties then in the Europa League. So yeah, look, it is a bit of a free hit, but we want to be the best we can be and get into the best competition we can get into, which was obviously the Europa League out of the two. So that'll be our full focus come next week. Yeah, that's what we'll be looking to do. Hopefully get a good result over there and then obviously bring it back to Tala and see what happens.
Stephen Bradley was in here a few months ago, just really interesting guy in his coaching journey, and even as a player at a very young age, taking a real interest in the coaching side, knowing that that's the way he would want his career to go. Can you talk about his influence and the style, and playing at three in the back and you on the left of that back three? What his instructions are to you?
To be fair to all of us, he just tells us to play our own games. He picked the squad. To be fair, he picked his players very, very carefully. He doesn't just sign players out of nowhere. He picks them very carefully. He gets in the right type of player that he wants, and then just tells you to play your own game. It's taken him a few years to get the squad as you have to build it now, and yeah, I just think he's brilliant. He doesn't leave any stone unturned. The detail that both him and the coaching staff go into when we're playing opposition teams, especially in Europe, because you don't know the opposition players and stuff. You get so much information, and as I say, Jay, he leaves no stone unturned, and I think he's a very, very good manager.
What did he say after the defeat in Ludogorets? Because there's been a lot spoken about the concession of the third goal in particular, and at that stage of the game, away from home, 2-0 down, particularly with the way the second leg, even in hindsight, we look back and go, what might have been? Trying to play it out from the back, getting caught out, conceding that late third goal. Was there a feeling that was the wrong decision at the wrong time, or is that actually, that's how he brought you up to play, that he wants you to play in the first minute or the 90th minute, he wants you to play a certain way?
Not to be fair, he'd always tell us to play, but obviously over there, I think it was the 93rd minute, I actually didn't know how late it was. I think in that instance, he wants us to go long, and he wants us to take it upon ourselves to do that, He just said it was a bit naive from us as a team, which it was, to be fair, and naive from myself, especially. I look back on it now and kick myself over it. If I had known there was 30 seconds left, I obviously just would have kicked it. But look, hindsight is a great thing. But no, I think that late on in games, such big games like that, whereas 2-0 would have really helped us. Like the talent. I think in that instance, obviously, you'll always go long. But no, other than that, you'll always want us to play out back. You'll always want us to be us, and don't come away from what we do.
Because that, I thought, was so noticeable in the second leg against Ludogorets, and I was out in Tala, and it was one of those, like, there's 3 minutes left and the ball is out on the right hand side and you're just saying, lump it in, there's 2 minutes left, just get it in there. And actually, like, the goal that Shamrock Rovers created for Aidamu Amaku, like the quality of possession, the build up with 2 minutes to go in a huge European game where you're desperate for a goal, like everything suggests in Irish football history, we go long, get the big man in there. There was probably no greater goal that shows the philosophy that's there of Bradley. I know it didn't count for anything in the end, but 2 minutes from time against that quality opposition to still do the right thing at the right time says an awful lot about how Shamrock Rovers are taught to play the game.
Yeah, he constantly says it, to be us and do what we do and don't come away from it and trust the process. And to be fair, it does work a lot of the time. You'll very rarely see us in the 90th minute lump the ball long. Now, sometimes obviously you might have that, but more often than not, you'll see us to try play through the lines and break teams down that way. I think that's, as you said, that's his philosophy. We're all after buying into it now. There's a lot of us here that cover the group is here with a nice few years, so we're after buying into it, and anyone that comes in buys into it straight away as well. And yeah, that's his philosophy, and I don't think will change.
Are you the teacher's pet out in Rovers? Because anytime I go out, there seems to be changes, 4 or 5 changes to the starting team. You look at the strength and depth that's there with Pico Lopez been out at the moment, Jack Byrne just coming back to fitness among the substitutes. Graham Burke was on the bench the last night. Neil Ferrugia. You seem to start every game.
I wouldn't say I'm the teacher's pet. You might have to ask a few other players that, but no, I wouldn't say I'm the teacher's pet. Look, if I'm fit and I'm playing well, then obviously I'm being picked. But look, there's a few injuries within the squad throughout the year as well, and I've had my own few injuries as well. I've missed 1 or 2 games. But look, I just try to put myself in the best position every day in the training pitch and every match. Just try work as hard as I can, do my best, and obviously give the gaffer a headache with his team selection, and as do all the rest of the players. We've such a good squad now. We've 2 and 3 players in every position, so it's a good headache for the manager to have. But no, as I said, I work as hard as I can during the week, and yeah, the rest take care of themselves.
Your own personal story is interesting, particularly in light of the conversation that's going on around the League of Ireland at the moment, and it's been seen as a really young league, maybe one of the youngest leagues in Europe. I know Shamrock Rovers' average age is probably a bit higher than most, but an average age of most squads of 23, 24, that it's seen as a league. Players come in, they make their name, and as we've seen over this transfer window, they progress on to English football. Like, you didn't really start out until sort of 22, 23, and certainly didn't make that progression to Shamrock Rovers to much later in your career.
Yeah, I think I went to Wexford when I was 20. I think I was 21. And then I didn't come to Rovers. I think I was 24, maybe 25. So yeah, it was a fairly late start. You could say I was playing a bit of catch up.
Why was that?
I'm not too sure. Obviously, as I was growing up, I used to go on all the trials down in Watford, and I was never picked for anything. And I was too small and all that kind of stuff. And whatever reasons they gave. So it was a decision at the time, but I thought the route had gone then, and I thought my time had passed, so I went down the route of the army, and funnily enough, that's how I actually got into the League of Ireland. In the army, I played with the Irish Army team in the Euros in France, and a few of the players I played with Wexford, and they gave me name to Shane Keegan, and he signed me for Wexford then, and the rest is history, as they say. But yeah, it was a fairly late coming, all right.
Yeah, your ears must be burning on a Friday night when we do League of Ireland late night, as Shane takes credit every single Friday night for your progression in your career. I
know, to be fair to Shane, I've not to thank Shane for. He obviously took a chance on signing me from the junior club Carrick United back in the day. And he obviously brought me from Wexford to full-time football with Galway. So yeah, as I said, I have a lot to thank Shane, and I still send Shane the odd message here and there as well. So yeah, he's a top man.
I was talking to him before about that fact that you were one of the late developers. I remember him making the point that you're born in December, right?
Yeah, the 1st of December.
Yeah, and like there, been studies done not just in the League of Ireland but around football of players born in that latter half of the year and how much of a disadvantage they're at. And I think at one stage there was a study done that only 5 players born in the last 3 months of the year were in action in the League of Ireland, which is a remarkable situation. When you look back on your younger years, like, was that a factor? Do you feel that you were not quite fully developed as those who were maybe 10, 11 months older than you at underage level?
100%. I remember that piece you're on about. I think Shane sent it to me, or you mentioned me in it. I definitely seen it. I definitely had an impact. Because there was a few of my friends that were my age, but they were born in January, and they were making teams I wasn't making a year younger, you could say. And I felt I was a better player than them, and I'm sure they'd probably agree now because there's not too many of them playing anymore. But yeah, it definitely had an impact. I was always the smallest at the trials. I was just physically wasn't ready. And it probably, looking back now, it definitely did hamper me. But you see it nowadays, it doesn't matter how big or small you are. I think the physicality side of that, definitely growing up, is kind of going away. Smaller players are getting more of a look. I just didn't have a chance when I was smaller, unfortunately.
Yeah, like, it does make you wonder how many players missed out on opportunities just by the end of the month they were born in.
Yeah, it's crazy. I went to so many trials, and I was always told I was too small. And
because you hear that a lot from players who don't make it at underage level and go on to success. That, like, they're like, is that a coach? Is that the feedback you're getting? Like, and how do you respond to that when you're 14, 15?
Sure, I remember the Kennedy Cup year. I went down for the trials. Me and one of my close mates, still is one of my close mates. went for the trials, and he made the team and I didn't, and I was told I was too small, and my father gave me the bad news, and sure I started balling. So that's how I took it anyway. But as I got older, I just had to deal with it and keep trying. And at under 18, I eventually made an interleague team at Waterford. First kind of team I ever made. It was the best players in the Waterford League, kind of played against the other leagues. So I just had to keep trying.
Yeah, and the Kennedy Cup is, it's the centre of the universe for anybody who's trying to get in one of those squads at the time. Like, that must just be devastating, because also, it's not something you can affect in any way. Like, you just have to wait for nature to take its course. It's not as if you can go out and train a little bit harder. The people are making those sort of judgments and not just helping to try the player progress, the more naturally talented player, just trying to get, even at that young age, the big lad into the squad.
Yeah, there was a lot of big lads, to be fair. The trials I was on for the Kennedy Cup that year, there was a lot of big lads, and funnily enough, most of them were picked. I'm not saying they weren't bad players, but they just had the physicality, and that stands to you a lot when you're a young kid. So I didn't sprout up from that my height till I was probably 15, 16, but sure, at that stage I thought it was too late. So I set me sights on the army, and yeah, that was it.
Would you see then that your ambitions for football are very different from a lot of the players that you're in the squad with, where it's it's such a mix of players who've been abroad, who've played at a very high level abroad, some who've come back, quite a few players who would expect to go abroad over the next couple of years? Like, the League of Ireland, was that always, once you'd missed out initially, was that always the dream, to just get to that level and play football and for that to be your job?
Yeah, it was always a dream to obviously play football as my job. To be honest, I didn't care where. It was always my dream to do it. And obviously, when the time came and I was in the army and I had that choice between staying or leaving for Galway, I had to make that decision, because I would have kicked myself if I never tried it. It was a big decision at the time, but one that I definitely don't regret.
How did you enjoy army life?
I know, I definitely enjoyed it. I say it many a times when I'm doing pieces like this. I say it. I have no regrets from joining the army. I wouldn't be here without it, because that's how I got in contact with Shane at the time. So, no regrets. I loved it. Loved all the outdoor stuff and all that kind of stuff. There was times, obviously, it was tough when I was training and that, but all in all, no, I have no regrets, and very much enjoyed my time.
So, in terms of what's next, there've been some articles over the last couple of days about potential fixture lists between now and the end of the season, and it's going to be pretty relentless with 2 games a week, and even then it's hard to squeeze all the matches in between now and the end of the season. Up to Derry tomorrow night. Like, it was a blessing in disguise that your flight ends up being diverted back to Dublin. So I know Stephen Bradley was, he used the opportunity in victory to vent his frustration at what's been going on with the flight situation and not being able to get back into Dublin. What have the last 48 hours been like? Have you been able to have a session? Because tomorrow's one of the biggest nights of the domestic season. Win tomorrow night for Shamrock Rovers, and probably puts a big enough gap that Derry are out of it. But all talk has been about Europe. All talk has been about that flight situation. What have you actually been able to do to prepare for the game?
Yeah, well, we obviously landed Wednesday morning. Obviously, we Wednesday off then just to regroup and recover and get some rest, and obviously get the legs up and regroup for today. Then we got a session done today. And yeah, we're ready for Derry. As I said, it's an absolutely massive game. There's no point trying to say it's not. I know all the talk the last few weeks about Europe and stuff like that, but you have to be able to go away in Europe and come back and do the business in the league as well. That's why we want to be in this position. And these games are going to be like that. You're going to be playing every 3 and 4 days, so we can't be giving out about the schedule. We want to be here, and I'm sure every other team in the league will want to be in our position. So we're fully focused now on Derry, and the European talk there's no European talk within the doors of our training ground this morning. All focus is on Derry, and we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, because we saw what happened with Sligo and St Patrick's Athletic and the difficulties they had in the FAI Cup in trying that quick turnaround. Obviously, the game was on Tuesday, but the league match is tomorrow night, so it's a similar scenario for Shamrock Rovers. You say there's no real talk of Europe. Who are the guys in the dressing room that are making sure everybody stays focused?
To be fair, a lot of it's come from the staff. There's a lot of senior lads within our group now. As you said, our average age is obviously one of the highest in the league, so there's a lot of senior pros within the dressing room. myself, Pico, Ronan Finn, Rory Gaffney, Sean Hall. Then I'm springing to mind. They're all leaders, and there's plenty more that I didn't mention. I just have to mention kind of the older lads there, but look, we know ourselves. It's not easy coming home from Europe and playing 3 or 4 days later, but we have to be ready, and we will be ready. And as I said, we're looking forward to it.
So there's been no videos watched of Ferencvaros just yet?
No, definitely not. There's been no mention. As soon as the plane landed in Dublin the other day, it was all focused on Derry. And look, that's the way it has to be. Derry are a top side. If we don't treat them with respect as we do the European games, then they'll turn us over, and especially up there. It's going to be a tough game. It's a tough place to go, but as I said, we're looking forward to it, and it should be a good game.